Today I'm cutting apart a pair of Birchburys. They're a small company that specializes in wide toe box barefoot shoes. So if you hate having your toes squished, this might be a really good option for you. So let's cut it apart and see what's inside of it. And thank you guys for watching these videos. These sponsored videos by these companies are literally the lifeblood of this channel. It's what makes all of this possible, is these companies being willing to take a leap of faith and have their stuff cut apart on YouTube. So be sure to thank Birchbury by checking out their link in my description and considering these shoes. So who is Birchbury? A lot of you guys might not have heard of them. They're a pretty new company, a pretty small startup. They got 3 employees, which can be a really huge benefit for when you're buying shoes. Because when you've got a small company, you don't have huge marketing budgets. You don't have HR and all these other expenses that are associated with the bigger companies. And so a lot of times you get a higher quality product at a lower price, which is, I think, what's going on with Birchbury. And Matt, the founder of Birchbury, was a flip-flop wearing guy, wore flip-flops all his life. And so when it came time to wear something a little more grown up, a little more adult, a little more professional, he had to buy a pair of sneakers. And as you all know, like Common Projects and some of these other shoes are wildly uncomfortable because their toe box is so small. And because Matt was so used to wearing flip-flops and his toes had naturally spread out and not been shaped to the shape of shoes, he decided to make his own shoe, which that's where all the best innovation comes from, is when someone sees a problem and they find a way to fix it. So that's what really intrigued me about Birchbury. It's kind of a unique story. It's a small company, and it's a company that I think a lot of you guys can get behind. So the brand is Birchbury. The model is the Bramfords. They come in brown and black. They weigh just under 13 ounces for these 43 size. They are currently on the site for $99, and they're made in Vietnam. So now let's go over the information that we can gather about these shoes before we cut them in half, starting with the leather. So this leather is surprisingly good leather. It's really, really soft. It's a really glovey, tumbled leather, so you get that pebbled look. But it is some of the softest, most comfortable leather I've seen in a sneaker because it's so tumbled, but it's not floppy, which was really surprising. I'm kind of a sucker for a thicker, supple, soft leather, so having a sneaker made out of these that's really comfortable in a wide toe box was really intriguing to me. But the leather itself is a full grain chrome tan leather that is tanned in the United States. I'm not sure which tannery it comes from, and I don't know how thick it is, so we'll see once we get it cut in half, but it seems like it's a pretty decently thick leather. So right off the bat, pretty high quality leather for a shoe that's only $99. Moving to the lining, so this is a pigskin lining. A lot of people like pigskin because it's a stronger leather per thickness, and so when you get down to the thinner thicknesses like you see inside of here, which is probably like a 1.2 millimeter thick leather, a pigskin is allegedly stronger. And to have a leather lined shoe for $99 is also pretty surprising. Moving on to the laces, so these are elastic laces. Obviously you can change them out if you don't want elastic laces, but it makes these shoes really easy to take on or put on and take off. And they're not so elastic that you are slipping out of them. And I didn't even notice that they had elastic in them. I just threw them on, and then later I was like, wait, I didn't tie these shoes, they're elastic. Next to the construction, so I'm pretty sure these are a cemented construction. They're not a cup sole like you would see with the Common Projects and other sneakers similar to this. I think they're built kind of like a Vans or Converse, where they've got this rubber sidewall that's glued on, and that's stitched to the upper with that sidewall stitch, and the inside is Strobel stitched. And that's got its pros and cons. You know, I don't think they could have done a cup sole because they would have had to have made their own cup sole. There also is a Apple sticker on the bottom of this. I think a cup sole is probably a better sole option, but for $99, there's not really much you can complain about. Plus it's got the sidewall stitching. It seems like it's cemented really well, so no complaints there. The insert is a PU molded insole, which is also removable if you want that ultra barefoot feel. And it's shaped to the shape of the shoe, because sometimes you see some of these more affordable wide toe box shoes that have normal insoles in them and you get little gaps on the side. Fortunately, these fit perfectly. The outsole is a herringbone, kind of a chevron pattern outsole that's rubber, and it's pretty thin. I don't know how thin it is yet till we cut it in half, but it's pretty thin. So when you do walk around outside, you can kind of feel the ground, and you feel a little bit more grounded to the earth, which a lot of people that are into the barefoot shoes and wide toe box shoes are looking for. And it's worth noting that this is a 0 drop shoe, which basically means there's the heel height and the toe height are the same height. You're not sitting on a heel or standing on a heel. Onto the fit, feel, and look. So I was actually really surprised at how clean the stitching is on this, because a lot of times you get these shoes and boots in that $100 price range and you lose a lot of the quality control. But these stitches are really well done. They're spaced nicely. There's not overlap anywhere. As for how they fit and how they look, I got a size 43. I'm a 10 on a Brannock, and the 43 fits me better because it's got a little bit wider toe box, so your toes aren't squished as much into the front of the shoe. But I would just go off the Birchbury recommendations, but 43 fit me perfectly. As for the look, so obviously these are a wide toe box shoe and they don't have that slim silhouette that most shoes do. And just like every other wide toe box boot or shoe I've reviewed, you're always your harshest critic because you're looking straight down at your toes and you're looking straight down at the widest part of the shoe, versus most people are seeing you from an angle. And so they don't, like when someone else is wearing these, they don't look that wide. And I don't even know if I would necessarily notice that they're a wide toe box shoe when someone else is wearing them, but they definitely do have a wide toe box. But if you're the type of person that's looking for a wide toe box shoe or that barefoot feel, you're already willing to sacrifice a little bit of the aesthetic for that comfort. And it really does feel different. It almost, to me, they kind of feel like ninja shoes, because your toes are spread out and you can feel everything. It feels like you're walking around in bare feet, but with more protection and traction. So to me, they kind of feel like ninja shoes. And minimalist shoes have a tendency to feel pretty cheap. You know, I've seen quite a few barefoot shoes and they don't use the greatest leather and they don't use great materials and they're really light and just feel cheap. These feel like high quality shoes. You know, they have the heft of that higher quality rubber, that thicker leather upper, and they just feel like substantial shoes. So initial impressions, I was really impressed with these shoes. Now let's cut them in half and see what's inside of them. Okay, I got it cut in half and massacred on this side, so let's see what's inside. I'm actually really impressed with this shoe. You know, I thought it was a high quality shoe before I cut it in half, but now we can see that this leather upper is 2 millimeters thick, which is as thick as like Danner boots and a lot of other boot companies. You know, it's thin for a boot, but it's really thick for a leather shoe, which is really impressive. I like the thicker leather. It's gonna last longer. You're not gonna wear it out like you do on the creases on like a common project shoe. I really, really like that. And you're able to get away with it because it's so soft and tumbled that there's probably less break-in period than a 1mm firm leather shoe. So that's awesome. I really like that. That alone to me makes the shoe worth it. Aside from everything else, a 2mm thick leather upper that's this high quality of a full grain tumbled oil tanned leather, that's enough to sell it for me. I really like these shoes now that I know how thick that leather is. Because most shoes around this style and thickness, they use a lot of weird strap work and like odd panels that are really ugly, but these are a really clean, simple design with a high quality, thick leather upper, and it's pigskin lined. So this pigskin is just under 1mm. And the other thing that was really cool is the toe is, instead of having like a thermoplastic toe stiffener, it's a piece of canvas. So, you know, you get that soft toe, but still has some structure to it. They debated on not putting a counter in, but Matt from Birchbury decided to put a counter in it to help prevent pronation, I think is what it's called, where your ankles roll in and give you a little bit of support at the heel. And it's a pretty soft counter, and it's not a cheap counter either, because a lot of times you'll see in a $100 pair of shoes, it's got that reinforced plastic counter that always cracks. But this is kind of a rubbery counter that, as you can see, it's not cracking anytime soon. The outsole, thicker than I thought. I thought it was gonna be really thin, but with that little layer of rubber right there on the inside, the whole outsole comes in at 6mm, which is pretty thick. I think that's about as thick as a margam. I'll look at it and put the thickness of margam right here. Yeah, I'm actually really blown away with this shoe. Overall construction of this, being that it's not a cup sole, it's probably gonna last about as long as any other shoe in this price range. I don't think that the upper's gonna wear out anytime soon. The first thing that's gonna wear out is gonna be the outsole. You're gonna wear through that before anything else. Are they resolable? To some degree they are. Birchbury doesn't offer resoling service, but for $100, a lot of times you're okay with just getting one use out of these. Now to the pros and cons of this boot. Pros, super thick leather upper, everything I talked about. Super comfortable, ninja shoes, high quality leather, American tan leather. A man obsessed with his idea of what makes a sneaker perfect, with the wide toe box, the slim silhouette. There's a specific type of person that wants this shoe, and if you're that type of person, this is about as good as it gets, as far as I've seen. There might be some other shoes out there for a little bit higher price. There might be some better ones out there. I haven't seen them, but for $100, these really blew me away. If you disagree with this and you think I'm shilling out, let me know what part of this shoe you disagree with. You know, obviously there's ways to improve it. You know, you could add some leather in there for the sole material. You could do a cup sole, but you're gonna be raising the price, because in order to get a custom-made cup sole, there's gonna be MOQs involved where you're gonna have a lot higher quantity ordered to get and sell a lot higher quantity to get that price to a point where they can afford to make a custom cup sole. The biggest con is the look. You know, it's a wide toe box shoe, and it's inherent with the wide toe box shoe. It's not gonna look as good as a common project. Other cons, like I mentioned, it's not a cup sole. This eyelet, when I was ripping it apart, came apart pretty easily. I don't think that's out of the ordinary that it would come apart that easily, because I really ripped on it. Another con would be how much you can feel underneath your foot with these shoes. There's no cushioning in these shoes. It's literally your foot, the insole, and then the rubber. So if you're looking for a really squishy, comfortable shoe that you don't want to feel everything you step on, this is not the shoe for you. But if you do like that barefoot feel and you like being able to feel the ground, this does it well. So a lot of the cons of this shoe are just kind of inherent to this style of shoe. So for what it is, this shoe is very impressive. So huge thanks to Birchbury for sponsoring this video. They took a huge gamble on letting me tear this apart. They're a 3-person company, so the cost of having this review done is a lot more than what it would be for some of these bigger companies I work with. So be sure to thank them by checking out the link in my description. Check out their website, see the other options they've got. They got a dress shoe coming out. And if you're interested in these shoes, I think you're gonna like them a lot. I'm really impressed with them. So thank you guys, see ya. So pretty decent, come on, you can't go up there.